This Sagittarius new moon emphasizes sovereignty, adventure, information, and asks us, what do we believe in? So when this new moon is on November 30th in Pacific time zone at 10:21 p.m. So that's going to be November 30th, December 1st, depending on what time zone you're in. And so, what we want to look at first is what Sagittarius is. And everything around a new moon is about planting new seeds. And so, with Sagittarius, it's about adventure, it's about individuality, it's about passion, it's about courage to follow our convictions. So, with some of the things going around with Pluto right now and the things going around with Jupiter, we are really going to get this emphasis and this focus on information and what does that information actually mean to us. With Sagittarius, we want to look for hope. We want to be optimistic because a lot of times what we receive and what we see and what we observe in the world can bring us into the state of pessimism, especially as things are changing and things are shifting. And it's important to then kind of take a deep breath and move into what our core values are, because Sagittarius is about our gut, it's about our instinct, it is about learning, it's about understanding the world, but it's understanding the world through experience. So part of this Sagittarius new moon, and we'll get this repeated at the full moon, because a full moon is always going to be the opposites. So the sun and the moon are at opposites. So at the full moon coming up in 2 weeks, we're going to have Gemini. It's the Gemini full moon. So we'll have the moon in Gemini and the sun will still be in Sagittarius. But right now we have Jupiter in retrograde in Gemini opposing this new moon in Sagittarius. So we're already getting this opposition between the information that we're receiving and what we believe in. So what we want to do, first of all, stop, pause, receive. Don't feel like you have to act, because keeping in mind that the Jupiter is in retrograde right now and Mercury is in retrograde right now. So all of this has to do with how we receive information, and the Sagittarius part comes in and how we interpret it, what we do with it, and how we move forward and how it shapes our beliefs. So with Jupiter in Gemini, it's receiving information. Jupiter expands everything, but remembering again that these two things are, both the Jupiter and Mercury are in retrograde right now. So that is a time for reflection. That is a time when things come to the surface for us to examine. So don't act on all of the information that is coming in right now. It is overwhelming and nobody can really, and you're not meant to focus on it right now. You're not meant to go act on it and be impulsive on it. You're meant to, in this moment, use that information to plant the seeds of what you see, what you want to happen next. And so this is kind of, then all of that is creating, so Jupiter opposing sun and moon, this new moon, and then Jupiter also opposing Mercury in retrograde in Sagittarius. So it's constantly information, question what we believe, see what comes next. Are we open to receive new information? Is our information shaping our values? What are we looking for? Because whatever we're looking for in our environment, we're going to get confirmation of that. So make sure that what you are focusing on is things that are truly in alignment with who you are and what we want. Then again, like as I started to say, is that all of these planets, all of this information, kind of focus, belief, education, understanding, focus of these two, of the Gemini and Sagittarius things that are happening, are squaring Saturn, and Saturn in Pisces. And Saturn represents discipline. It represents kind of authoritative structure, inner authority. So are we abdicating authority to somebody else as we receive this information, or are we becoming our own inner authority? How are we adapting and interpreting and integrating what the information we receive, and how are we choosing how we receive that information? In Pisces, it's going to be about things. Piscean values are about empathy and kind of standing up above and observing. We think about the ocean and we think about the vastness of the ocean. And so if you focus on one little piece of it, you can get lost, you can get overwhelmed. But when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, what do we see? What do we want? Sagittarius is long term. It's stamina. I'm not Sagittarius. Saturn is long term. It's stamina. It's how do we work for what we want. So how do we work for what we want and achieve these things that we care about? And how do we find balance between the long term and that impulsiveness that comes from Sagittarius? Sagittarius is impulsive. Sagittarius is instinctual, and it's supposed to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's something that we want to go with. We want to go with our gut, but we want to develop the discipline in order to make sure that our gut is leading us down the path that we want, is in alignment again with our beliefs, with our values, our sovereignty. So all of these are themes here. And so that's kind of one section of what is happening with this new moon time. Then what we're also looking at is, of course, the big news is Pluto has gone into Aquarius and is going to be there for the next 20 years. And it is making a couple of aspects during this time. And it's going to continue. So Pluto is opposite Mars right now. And Mars is actually going to station retrograde on December 6th in Leo, and Leo is opposing that Pluto in Aquarius. So we're talking about power issues, we're talking about control issues, and this is where the spirit of where we emphasize and kind of reinforce that Sagittarius energy about individuality, about sovereignty. We see that in this opposition too. We see Mars in Leo, which is about fighting for what we love, fighting for what we care about, and Pluto in Aquarius is about individuality. It's about what kind of vision do we see for the future. So when we have these two things opposite, it's kind of like, what do I want right now and what do I want for the future? And how do I bring these two things together in order to be content? Because coming back to some of that Pisces Saturn themes is when we have chaos swirling around us, we have to find our center and we have to focus on what the things that are right in front of us. So what are those things? Mars in Leo wants us to fight for the things we love right now. Pluto in Aquarius, again, wants us to look at that long-term vision, but both of them are independent, both of them are sovereign. So there's, again, that theme of sovereignty. And how do we find balance between our instincts in the now and our long-term future? And that comes to, do these things align with my values? So again, coming back to that new moon in Sagittarius, Mercury in Sagittarius, as well as Jupiter and Gemini, what information am I receiving? What am I understanding about the world around me, and how am I integrating that into who I am? And then we go off and figure out what battles do I need to fight for today to achieve the future that I'm looking for, to create the future that I'm looking for. Sagittarius is about hope. So we want to infuse everything we do with hope and love and light. And that is not to minimize the struggle or minimize. Love and light are not complacent. They are active. Mars in Leo tells us, and then Mars will be back in Cancer too. Mars tells us to be active, to fight for the things that we love, to fight for the things that we care about. But both the Saturn and Aquarian things are telling us to look at the long term and not burn ourselves out in the now, pushing for every battle, getting wound up and then burning out, so then we don't have the stamina, we don't have the energy to go after the things we want. So this opposition is going to be pretty much for the rest of the the rest of the year, that we're gonna see these two pieces come together, and then we'll see it again. We'll see it repeat once Mars is going to then go into Cancer, and then it's going to come back, and it's going to come back over this. So this is a continued theme for the next couple months. And then we'll also see at the time around this, over the next few weeks, we're going to see Venus come into conjunction with Pluto. So that's then going to, on the 7th, December 7th, Venus moves into Aquarius, but it's at 22 degrees Capricorn right now. So it is in a kind of a loose conjunction, but it's moving towards Pluto. And Venus is about what we love. Capricorn emphasizes again those kind of Saturnian themes of discipline, of long term. What kind of things do we want over the long term? And so infusing, it's quite lovely to see Venus infused with Pluto. And that's not something I talk about a lot, because when I'm doing individual charts, including my own, including a lot of the people in my life actually have Venus conjunct Pluto natally, and it brings a lot of intensity to all sorts of relationships. It brings transformation to all of our relationships. But one of the beautiful things about this particular conjunction is that Venus is going to bring that level of love, of commitment, of empathy to, and connection to the intensity and transformational power of Pluto, so that it's not, Aquarius has the reputation of being cold and analytical, because it is so focused on it's very humanitarian focus, but because it's so focused on the future it wants to bring, it sometimes can lack the empathy in the moment. And so Venus infuses that Plutonian energy with the love, with the caring, with the empathy that we need in order to not get ahead of ourselves, to remember that where we are right now is precious too, as we develop, because that's what fuels our beliefs, that what fuels what we need, that fuels what we care about. Because if we're not coming back, all of these different things, Sagittarius, all of the Sagittarius stuff, all of the Leo stuff, all of the Saturn and Pisces, all of this is about coming back to asking, what do you believe in? And are the things that you're doing in alignment with your values and what you care the most about? And then you follow your instincts, and then you bring all the other pieces together in order to create the world that you want, that is full of hope and not being drowned by pessimism. Because again, that information overload is pretty intense, and it's going to be for the next couple weeks. Let it fall in, let it simmer, let it percolate, and let the things that you love shine through. Hope this helps. Personal interpretations, I've got a book a reading. I've got several kind of Black Friday holiday specials that are extended, which includes $100 off reading packages, $15 individual 10-minute these new moon readings that I do every month. And so just check out katieshell.com, and I hope you have a great day.